All right, welcome everybody to our Wednesday night United Nations training call. I'm Melissa Mercer, and I have the privilege of sharing with you one of my regional vice presidents, and you probably all know her name because she rocked the Maui Challenge and was a top winner many of the months. And she is a married mama of two, also works full-time in corporate America. So she has a wonderful testimony to what Arbonne has done for her health, but also for her financial situation. She may not share this, but her husband is disabled. And I think that's good for you to know, because this is one tough cookie. Lots of, good and bad comes our way in life, and Sheila is just an amazing gal, and I am extremely blessed to have her underneath me. So just going to make sure, if you want to mute your phone, I muted everybody, but sometimes I don't know what happens with that, but I'm going to mute and I'm going to turn it over to Sheila. Just so you know, she lives way up north in Duluth, Minnesota. So the snow is probably just melting right now. So no, I'm kidding. All right, Sheila, so thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to stop and let you start.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for getting on. Like Melissa said, I still work my corporate job. And actually, I was working my corporate job. I think I'd been there for about 14 years when I was introduced to Arbonne. And I don't have a 4-year degree. And many of the times throughout my corporate career, I would hear things like, well, you're really not qualified to do this because you don't have the degree. Or, we're going to hire so-and-so instead of you because you don't have a degree. So I'm not sure if any of you can relate to that or not, but for me, that was something that was really in the forefront before in my career. The paper industry is predominantly a male market, and so being a female in that market, you really have to work super hard to prove yourself. And a lot of times you even find yourself starting to kind of doubt yourself because you're kind of put in a place of, we're going to hire this guy to do this job, but then we're going to need you to teach and train him and maybe even supervise him and make sure that he's pulling his own weight. And so I was also, though, the one that could get all the opportunities. For those of you that work a regular job, you kind of know what I mean by that. I really didn't get any more money for that, but I would get the stuff because they knew it would get done. And my initial thoughts when I was introduced to Arbonne were really one of, I can't do this. I don't have enough time. I work 60 plus hours a week. There is just no way. 2 kids, I just couldn't visualize seeing it. But luckily for me, my upline didn't give up, and they kept kind of sharing and dripping on me. And so for you guys that haven't really worked in corporate America or haven't worked there for a long time, there is a real true fear of people for being taken advantage of. It's not a real warm, cozy, fuzzy environment where everybody wants to see you get the job because they want to get the job. And that was something that I had become accustomed to over working in banking before that with a lot of women, and then at the paper mill because of my lack of a degree. So at first my gut reaction was, why are these ladies being so nice to me? And I didn't really know a community like Arbonne existed out there. And I also would say that I was also worried because I felt like I didn't have any friends. And I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, and maybe that sounds sad to people, but I went through Monday through Friday with being completely exhausted and then kind of just hibernating in my house. I honestly was just going through the motions of life. And so even though I had these fears and hesitations, I couldn't help but shake the hope and the little gut tug. So any of you guys that have come into Arbonne and you've had that gut tug, you kind of know what I'm talking about. And for those of you that haven't had it, at some point in your business, you will. I just knew that I had to do it, and I knew that I had to decide and get started and get to work. I've never treated Arbonne like a hobby, you guys. I did not have time for a hobby. It was something, if I was going to do it, I was going to be all in and just make it happen. So when I was asked about my whys and my dreams, I kind of laughed a little bit because I thought to myself, who has time for that? I didn't have any time for dreaming. I had totally stopped. And I think that at that point I felt a little bit less than too because I didn't have dreams. And I I just, maybe this sounds silly to you guys, but I wouldn't even get excited about going on a vacation because I knew going on a vacation meant it had to go on a credit card. And going on a credit card, I knew that that meant that there was going to be more debt going out the next month. And I felt really just not happy when we were there because I knew when we got back, we were going to have to pay the mortgage and all of those different things. So, um, in the beginning of my business, I would often question, is this worth it? Is this something I should keep doing? And I know there's a lot of new people on this call, and I just want to tell you guys, yes, it's definitely worth it. And looking back now, I know the whys and the reasons that I was supposed to do that, and I'm going to share a little bit of that with you guys throughout the call. But just know that you're right where you need to be, right when and you're called to this business right at the right time. So to get started in my business, I immediately made some changes in my schedule. I set boundaries with my corporate job, something I had never done before. And you guys, I wasn't really good at setting boundaries. I kind of said yes to a whole bunch of everything. I would normally work 10 plus hours a week. And then even more, I would come home and do more. And I decided to take that and make it 8 hours and take the rest of the time that I was putting towards my corporate job and put that towards my Arbonne business. And by doing that, I was able to see growth pretty quickly. I realized too that I didn't need to be everywhere and I didn't need to be everything to everyone. I didn't need to be at soccer practice, but once I had the game schedule, I knew that I could be at the game. And I knew that I just had to have conversations with my family and let them know that things were going to be a little bit different. And the conversations weren't always fun and they weren't always popular. But I knew that if I wanted something different, we had to do something different or we were going to keep getting more of the same. And I think I was more afraid of that than I was of making the sacrifices and some of the changes. So, some people on this call or my family or other people in the past have judged me because I've missed anniversaries, I've missed birthdays, I've missed certain things. And people think about that when I missed that for my Arbonne business, but nobody thinks about it when somebody misses it for their corporate job. And so I just had to decide that I really couldn't care what their opinions were. And I also found that some people were supportive, like the people that I didn't think were going to be supportive. And then there were some people that were just kind of not, and they were kind of nasty. But I really needed to also take ownership of that, not being responsible for their feelings. I just had to worry about me and my family and what was best for us. And then, we grew to area in 3 months, and I remember grasping the concept of duplication really quickly. And I knew without duplication, you guys, I just had picked up another job. I did not want another job. I wanted opportunity. And I figured I couldn't be the only person that was out there looking for the same thing. And so consultants would come in, I would work with them, I'd get them to district manager. And, I would just kind of teach them and I'd be like, oh, they must be good. They're golden, right? I got them to district. And then I would kind of just move on to the next person. I was assuming that everyone who wanted this wanted it at the same level and the same commitment that I did. And if they didn't, well, then I just needed to look for the next person. I also didn't realize that I was working in their district. You guys, I was working more towards numbers than I was towards developing people into leaders. And that is like the key, not working and telling people, I don't think you can do it, so I'm going to come work in your district. It's more about encouraging them and teaching and training them how to be leaders so they'll do what they need to do when you're not there. And I was really great at the recipe, you guys, the parts that I wanted to be great at. So I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but I would do 8 parties a month, the conference calls, sampling, staying connected. And probably about 2 years into my business, I had a call with Sheila Nelson. And I remember she asked me this question and she said, what are you reading? And I thought, well, I can't lie to her. She's going to know if I'm lying because Shelly can just tell. And so I said, Shelly, I'm really not reading anything. I kind of, I listened to Learn and Burns though, and I've listened to Dare to Dream several times. And then she sat there kind of quiet and I thought, oh Lord, say something. And then she says, she didn't say it like this, but this is how I heard it. What I heard was, if you don't read, don't expect to lead. And I thought, oh man. And then I didn't dare tell her that I wasn't doing the follow-up because I thought, I get the picture from here. I understand what she was trying to tell me. And I just thought about it and I thought, what's so great about this personal development? I know it's a huge part of the recipe, but I mean, really how important was the whole part? And so I kind of sat and I thought about it for a while, because I thought, if she took the time out of her time to have this call with me, she obviously sees some potential, and I need to really think about what she's telling me. And I knew that I had to kind of settle in or decide that I was going to be an area manager. I could no longer have one foot in, one foot out. And I was really fooling myself as to why I wasn't having the growth that I needed to see in my business. Sometimes it's hard to admit, but I had reached the leadership capacity that I had, and it was time to start growing. And so I felt almost selfish for taking the last 2 years of my business away from my family, knowing that I wasn't fully committed, but I was still taking the time and going through the motions. And I'll just say it, it was time to quit dinking around and get to work. I had a commitment to myself that I needed to follow the whole recipe, and then promise myself to act on my commitments, not my feelings. I started reading just a few pages at first. I started following up and building relationships with my clients. I decided that I wanted my clients, if they were approached by another Arbonne consultant or somebody asked them if they ever heard about Arbonne, I wanted them to proudly say, yes, Sheila Port's my consultant. Not, I think I was at a party one time with a gal from Cloquet, but I don't know her name. I really did not want to be growing a disposable business, and I went really quickly to a level 10 leadership or ownership in my business. And 6 months later, we were a region, just because we decided to get serious. So duplication really was the key to the success. I started reaching out to everybody, and you guys, my team started doing the same. It's kind of like kids. People do what you do, not what you say. And we even started reaching back out to people that we had reached on before. And I told people, I said, just follow that heart tug. If somebody's being placed on your heart, reach out to them again. There's people out there that I have reached out to several times. Some of them finally yes in my business, and some of them I believe are still watching and waiting. And I just wait for them to have an opportunity to see the value in this and then come and join our team. But if you're reaching out to someone and they reject what you have to offer, you guys don't just say okay to that. Ask questions. Say, can I ask why you say no? Can I ask if it's about time? Why do you say no to the time? Sometimes people think it's another 40-hour-a-week job. And when you're asking those questions, really stop and listen. And if it is time and they just say, you know what, now I'm really busy, ask for permission to follow up with them again in 6 months to a year. And then make sure that you put it in your calendar, but also make sure that you stay true to that commitment and don't ask them again in 2 months when it hasn't been 6 months. And I always leave that conversation with saying, now, of course, if you want to follow up and talk about it sooner, I am completely open to that. And then don't just leave that person, continue to build a relationship with them. Arbonne is totally about building a relationship. So something else that I've really started asking people if they tell me no and now it's not a good time, or I don't see myself doing a network marketing business. One of the things that I'll tell people is, at some point you might be approached by somebody else to take a look at their network marketing business. And if you find yourself even just a little bit curious or looking at that, I would really appreciate it if you would just come back to me and give me an opportunity to share with you about Arbonne. Because if you have all of the information and you're willing to take a look at that, and then you could just make an informed decision. You guys, they don't always do that, and that's okay. But I know that I did my part. And if I see that they've joined something else, I just have to let it go. I can't worry about that. But I always kind of put that in their court and just say, hey, just let me know and give me a shot. Sometimes somebody might tell you that, hey, you know what, I really love my job. And I don't want to not do what I'm doing. Sometimes they assume that when you're asking them to do Arbonne, they can no longer do any of the other things that they're doing because, again, they picture this a 40-hour-a-week opportunity that we're giving them. Talk to them about preparing for impact. What would they do if their job was to end? Do they have enough money saved? In being in corporate HR, the one thing that I can tell everybody is job security is no longer a thing. It just does not exist when you work in the corporate world. And if someone asks you about the cost of starting an Arbonne business, don't just say, oh, you know what, it's $49. Paint the vision for them. Tell them what they get with that $49. You guys, we get a medical advisory board, a marketing team, a legal department, product development, scientific advisory board. We have a free website. You guys, other companies don't give you a free website. We have free training, and we come alongside you and help you grow a global business. So just make sure you're painting that picture and not just passing by the opportunity of, oh, it's a low startup cost. It's a low startup cost, but you get a lot of value for that $49. If someone tells you they'll think about it, be sure to use the tools that we have put in place from our upline and from Arbonne. Ask, while you're thinking about it, is it okay if I add you to our Facebook Discover call or our Discover page? So you can kind of maybe read and hear some other success stories besides mine. Ask about EOAs. Say, you know what, if I sent you a link of some EOAs so you could kind of find somebody that you could relate to in there, would you be willing to read a couple? I think you might get some value out of that. Or say, my upline's doing a take a look call, even if they're not, they will. My upline's doing a take a look call, and I would so love it if you would just come on there. Every exposure that you can get them to builds bigger vision. You want to help people see the value and the opportunity as well, and make sure that they see the right, and make sure that they make the right decision, but make sure that you're not in the convincing mode. You guys, people will pick up on that, and the desperation is not good. And just detach yourself from the outcome. You really can't care if they say yes or no. Our job is simply just to ask. It's freeing for you, and it's totally freeing for them. Okay, so this next section kind of makes me laugh a little bit. Because I'm going to talk about it like I totally do this, but I don't all the time. So I don't know about you guys, but I haven't always acted on my heart tugs. When somebody's been placed on my heart, I haven't always followed up. And, I'll say things like, oh, they probably wouldn't want to do this, or I'll make judgment for them. And you guys, it's selfish. It's super, super selfish. And what I really need to say is I'm not confident enough to reach out to them. And that kind of stings a little bit when you flip that thought process. But then have you ever not reached out, and then you open social media and you see that, oh, I just joined Rodan Fields, and then you go, dang it, and you're mad. Well, you guys, you can't be mad because we didn't do our job and we didn't ask. And I just used to stay in like this little pity party mode once in a while when I would see that. And I would think, that's really sad. But she didn't know I was hiring. So how did she know that there was an opportunity to join Arbonne? And if you're like me and you reach out to everyone, if you're not like me and you do reach out to everyone, then you don't have to worry about this. But if you're a little bit like me, and you still have some people on your chicken list, maybe what we need to do is give those contact info to our upline. I mean, if you really think about it, if those people are that stinking intimidating, how awesome would they do if they came into Arbonne? They would probably do amazing at this. And that's what we want. We want them in our company, not somebody else's. And they're put on our heart for a reason. So I think it's just all about knowing that we're enough and that we don't need to be passing judgment on to other people as to whether or not they want to take a look at this. One of the things that we've been doing is kind of using some verbiage from Jim Rohn, and you guys, it's working amazing. So I just wanted to share this with you too. We kind of say, I've been challenged to get 3 people on a call by my upline, and I don't know if this is a fit for you, but would you please be one of my 3? Or you go back to somebody that you really want on your team and you say, you know what, I know you've already told me no, totally no pressure here, but I would absolutely love it if you would be one of the 3 people to get on a call for me. My upline's giving me a little challenge, and no pressure, can you just be one of the 3? We're having people that were an absolute no joining our business just from getting on and doing a take a look. And then if you get more than 3, don't stop there. Keep growing and keep asking to get more people on that call. And what motivated me when I started my Arbonne business, you guys, really doesn't motivate me today. Today, I really do. I have enough of what I started for in the beginning. We're debt-free. Our house is getting paid off quickly. It would not have been possible without Arbonne. We had massive credit card debt. We lived paycheck to paycheck. And we now pay cash for everything. And when you work to grow yourself, other people know it. You don't just grow in one part, you grow in all parts. And so on average, the people at my place of corporate America, they've gotten about 2 to 3% of their annual wage. My corporate annual wage over the last 4 years has increased by over $25,000. And I share that with you not to have somebody be impressed, but if you remember in the beginning, all I heard was, you know, you don't have a degree, you don't have these things. I've received promotions that I haven't applied for, and I present myself different. I no longer really care if my job's eliminated. If they want to eliminate my position, I'm fine with it, because they usually give you a little walking away money, and I'd be great. But they also allow me options that they don't allow other people to have. And, you know, that was a very big deal for me last year. I experienced so many things that money couldn't fix. My mom had been fighting cancer for years, and it became aggressive, and we knew we had absolute limited time with her. We spent the first half of the year being her caregivers, and I was working my corporate job, doing Arbonne, trying to be there for my special needs brother, my husband, my children, and I didn't even know how to be there for myself. And the thought of putting Arbonne aside, you guys, never, ever crossed my mind, because that was the only thing to this date that had given me absolute choices. I took the time I needed away from my corporate job instead, because I could. Had I not worked my Arbonne business up to this point, I would have never been able to have the option or the privilege to care for my mom. In October, the day after my mom's 67th birthday, we checked her into the hospice house. We knew that she wasn't going to be coming home. And the next day, my dad fell and he broke his hip. And he was in a completely different hospital. And because of Arbonne, you guys, I could afford to hire somebody to go get my dad, bring him to where my mom was, and we could have family dinner. And that was big, because, you know, the next day, my mom pretty much didn't come back out of it, you know, and we didn't know that, the timing, and we were so blessed. And, you know, during her last few days, I would sit with her and work my Arbonne business, because honestly, you guys, I'm not just saying that. That's what I did. I believe in this so much. And she knew how much I love my team. She knew about their dreams and their whys. And she would talk with me about who was I talking to, who was I coaching, where was I going to do my party. She knew I would go do a couple-hour party, and then I would come back and sit with her. And during one of our conversations, she was telling me how proud she was of me and not to give up on my dreams of making it to Maui as an MVP. And I had promised her I would take her with me. You know, that was one of the questions. You know, I always would joke and say, who's going to tell Tom he's not coming and you are? Because that was my husband, and or is my husband. And she sat there kind of quiet, and she said, you know, you can still take me with you. I'll always be with you. And she says, my mom's cremated, and she said, just take a little bit of my ashes with you. And I thought, you know, all of a sudden, it was just like another why, you know, like I have no doubt I'm going to get there. I just keep working and believing in my team. And we've all been honestly given a gift with Arbonne. And I really, truly hope that some of this training, there's a little nugget out of this for everybody. I hope and pray that if it's not for you, it'll be for somebody that you meet eventually. But I just really want to thank you guys for taking the time to get on the call and letting me share with you tonight.
All right, Sheila, you're amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you for your dedication, your heart, your willingness. I know that you spoke to a lot of people. Yeah, I don't want to talk too much because I'll start to cry. But you know how much I love you. And I'm so excited for you, because I know you're going to be a national vice president. Hands down, you will be. So it's so exciting to see that. So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you everybody for popping on. And just to realize, so you can take it home, I can do this too. I can. I just need to put one foot in front of the other every single day and do the next right thing. And you know what, Sheila hit it. I cannot follow my feelings. I just have to do the next right thing and avoid those feelings. So, because sometimes those doggone feelings just get in the way, and we just need to push them aside and just say, what's the next right thing? So you guys, we all know what the next right thing is. We have it written. It's handed to us on a silver platter. It's just that we have to choose. Am I going to do it today? Am I going to do it tomorrow? No matter what. And it's worth it, you guys, it's worth it. So take those steps every single day. So Sheila, thank you for sharing your heart and for sharing you look beautiful too. So thank you. Thanks, everybody.
That was a really quick call.
Thank you, Sheila.